Welcome to Love and Invention. We got a good one for you today.
Mm-hmm.
3 things I wish I knew about marriage before I got married.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to jump right in. My first thing that I wish I knew about marriage before I got married was watching someone be a good husband doesn't mean I know how to be a good husband.
Right.
I was fortunate enough to have a great father, and I thought he was a great husband. But having been a husband now for over 20 years, I never asked my mom if my dad was a great husband. She always said he was a great father. But I never asked her, was he a great husband? And she might have had a different answer based on what I was asking about or when I asked. But watching someone be a great husband doesn't make you a great husband.
Right.
I am glad I had good examples, my dad and other men that were around me, but that doesn't qualify you, and you have to be in it to know how to do it. Plus, being a great husband changes depending on the wife that you're a husband to.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my first one.
Okay. So my first piece of advice is that marriage is a learning experience that never stops. And what I mean is, throughout the course of our marriage and speaking with other couples, I've come to the conclusion that it's pretty much the same for each couple. And what I mean is, throughout your marriage, your spouse becomes a reflection of your insecurities. You're having conversations about your spouse that you find that are more than just surface conversations that uncover possible skeletons or vulnerabilities or weaknesses that you're having to come to grips with, and you're always learning. And in addition to that, you're also always learning your spouse. As you continue to grow together as a couple, as you continue to grow together as partners, you find out new and exciting things, and sometimes you find out things that may not be so exciting about your spouse. And so you're having to always regroup and come back and have conversations so that you guys can come back together as a unit and go forth.
Right. Yep. Learning experience. You know what I learned? The second thing that I wish I knew.
Okay.
That I learned while I was married is that your wife is not going to always like you.
No.
If you're in a good marriage, which we are, she's going to always love you. But there are going to be some days, brother, where she does not like you. She don't want to be around you. There's going to be some times. There's going to be some situations where she just doesn't like you. And
some minutes.
Some minutes, right? So when I realized that, it shook me a little bit. Because I was like, what happened? Why you don't like me?
Why you don't like me?
And I thought it was something wrong. And I was like, man, it shook me for a minute. But yeah, she's not gonna always like you. And real talk, you're not gonna always like her. Yeah. But that's not a reason to head to divorce court or think that anything is wrong necessarily in your marriage. Listen, the Bible says that when you get married, the two become one. And if you don't think there's gonna be some growing pains and some difficulties in the two becoming one, you're deceiving yourself.
Because sometimes it's like smashing 2 cars together.
Right. Yeah, you get the best parts and left. So, yeah, you're not gonna always like each other. You'll always love each other, and you'll come back. You'll get back together. You just got to keep talking and keep learning and keep loving. So that's my second one.
And so the second thing that I wish I knew about marriage before me and my husband got married was that marriage is going to require compromise and concession. And see, I was all ready for the compromise. I thought, everything, we're going to come to an agreement together, and it's going to be beautiful, and we're going to always be able to come together and make an agreement that we can both agree on.
And there will be butterflies that fly out and everything.
No. There's going to be some times where you need to concede, especially if you're a Christian in these streets. A lot of times you'll find yourself, if you're the wife, you'll find yourself having to follow your husband even though you don't see what he sees. And not that he's going in the wrong direction, but maybe God wasn't speaking to you. He was speaking to your husband. And so sometimes you have to concede and say, okay, husband, I'm going to follow you this far. Okay, I'm going to go this far and we'll regroup and come back and have our conversation. Or I'm going to follow you and we're going to see what happens. And so marriage it takes compromising, but it also takes concession. It takes some conceding, which was surprising to me. And I think that it led to many interesting conversations for me and my husband. Because it was hard to make concessions on both of our parts. Okay, it wasn't just me. Okay.
It was mainly you, though.
Okay, but you got to concede too. Okay, sometimes. And a lot of times people call making a concession giving in. And sometimes that can feel like you're giving up on things that you're very passionate about. And it's not really about that. It's about the both of you coming together and having serious conversation about your next steps. And then if one person is making good points, or if one person may be seeing a situation differently because of their experiences in their lives or their experiences in their job, sometimes it's important because you're supposed to trust your spouse. So sometimes it's important to say, you know what, you sound like you got this one. I'm just gonna follow you. I'm gonna make this concession for our family, not just for you, not just for your husband, but for your family.
That's a good one. And it's tough because like we're both extremely opinionated people, and it's difficult to concede or make a concession when most of the time people think they're right. So, and then you have to make that concession. I mean, I'm right a lot. And then you have to make the concession. You have to concede, even though you think that you were right about it. But we learn and we grow.
And we grow.
And we grow. So that was your second one? Very good. I have one more. And it is extremely important. I share this one with people all the time, and they don't believe me. And I didn't believe it either until I got married. My last thing I wish I knew before.
So what is it?
I was still talking. So my last thing that I wish I knew before I got married was that you will never be ready to be married. Now that sounds contradictory. If you're not ready, why would you get married? I'm not saying that you're not ready to get married. My point is,
you're not saying that we shouldn't prepare either.
No, I'm not saying that you shouldn't prepare. My point is that people always say, oh, I need to do this before I get married. Oh, I need to do this. I need to have this in order. I need to get these things. You're always going to have something that you need to do before you get married. But while you're doing that stuff, you could have already been married, because after you do it, you're still going to have to get that stuff in order. And it's going to change because the relationship changes once you get married. You should 100% prepare to get married. Prepare to be a husband. Read the books. Get the counsel. Go to premarital counseling. Prepare to be a wife. Read the books. Go to counseling. Get the premarital counseling. But you're never actually going to be ready. If you wait till you're ready, you'll never get it done. Right? Get prepared. Settle it in your mind. Then get married. And you'll get ready afterwards.
And remember, marriage is a learning experience. Like some of us, we went to college and we learned skills and trades. Marriage is the same way. You really got to get in that thing and you got to learn it. And I mean, if you want to be successful at it, you got to learn about that thing. You got to pick up your Bible or go to conferences, talk to people who are married, who have been married for some time, and just really put some elbow grease into it. Yeah.
Because you're not gonna know. Like for me, I didn't know what being a husband was. I didn't.
But even with all of that, you're still never gonna really be
ready. Right. So what's your last one, wife?
Well, my last one is going to be very interesting.
Yes.
It may even be a little controversial, but it doesn't mean that it's any less true. The last thing that I wish I knew about marriage before I got married is that being sexually compatible is a myth. Okay, so I know y'all gonna come at me, all right? But don't, please. Sexual compatibility is definitely a myth, and the reason why is because if you've had any previous relationships before you got married, you can't really bring that sex life into your marriage, into a new life that you're building with someone else. You really have to come together and decide what is best for that piece of your relationship with the person who you're with. All expectations, all concerns, all those things really have to be brought between you and your spouse, and you guys really have to talk about what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with, and what you could be comfortable with in the future. And really, that's all that it is. Okay, so I'm sorry, sexual compatibility is definitely a myth.
Right. I mean, because the reality is your pieces fit. Right?
Right.
And all you have to do now is figure out what the two of you
enjoy together.
Yeah, everything else. I mean, if you don't enjoy it together, then that's not part of your sex life.
Right. And what I've heard is that it doesn't matter how sexually compatible you were before you got married.
Right.
You shouldn't have been having sex before. Yeah. But what I heard was that once you become married, things change. Your sex life will change because you can't bring sin into a situation where you're coming together before God.
Right.
And you can't bring sin into that covenant.
Right.
And so you find that things aren't working the same. Things don't feel the same. Communications seem to be down. And so you really have to, again, work and put that learning in. Learning your spouse, learning new things about yourself. And that's really what takes precedence over being sexually compatible.
Right. And if you do it the way that God tells you to do it in the first place,
right,
you will be learning together at that time. So if God tells you that you're not supposed to have sex before you get married,
right,
then why would sexual compatibility even be a thing?
Now, I know that we fall 70,000 times.
Right.
And so we're not judging anyone per se. However, I just want everyone to know that sexual compatibility is a myth. And what really needs to happen is that you come together in covenant with this person, and they become your spouse, and then you guys work to have the best sex life that you can have. And forget about Bobby, Ronnie, Mickey, Ricky, and Mike. Okay, whoever. Forget about all them.
Right.
Okay, and come together with your spouse and just have a good time of sharing and loving and becoming one.
Yes, become one. Well, that was it. So 3 things we wish we knew about marriage before we got married.
I wish I knew.
Wish you knew too.
Almost 21 years later, here he is.
Here he is. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so that you'll know when our next video is released. And see you next time.